about us, Virginia. I know.
I'm Christina.
I'm Kendall.
We love talking about movies.
We like them weird and unconventional.
Offbeat and underrated cinema with cult charm.
And now we're going to share our conversation with you.
We're the Psychotronic sisters.
Come into my den, said the spider, etc.
This is our second random pick, right, from the Psychotronic Encyclopedia film.
Yes.
And we said, let's do something totally random. And we put our finger on a movie. We flipped open and put our finger on a movie. And we said, this is going to be totally different. Let's go in a different direction. And in many ways, this is like our previous movie that we talked about, Reflection of the Dead Diamond. Because we ended up talking in that episode about the 1% and their greed and power and how, you know, these supervillains who are just getting away with doing whatever they want. In this movie, there's a woman running around in a black cat suit, like a supervillain. There's all the pulp superhero, you know, vibes of it, put through a modern filter, which is same as the last movie, and a director who likes to emphasize image and style. So it's kind of funny how we ended up with, and it's still different. Like it's not, well, I'm not saying it's the same movie, but it's kind of funny how we said, let's go with a random movie. And then we ended up with all these similar things.
It feels intentional. And like our random is so perfectly aligned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
The thing I love about this is that, so Judex is a remake of a silent serial. And so looking at the history of that is interesting and what was done to make it different and what's the same. But it also, like, it's connected to the whole beginning of genre and what we're talking about here, you know, on our podcast. Genre started with these movies like Elise Guy Blaché. She had dismembered limbs in some movie. And, you know, suspense and horror. You know, Home Invasion started with suspense, Lois Weber in 1913. And then the French, we've got Louis Vuillard, who did Les Vampires, Fantomas, and then Judex, which was the inspiration for this.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the films that are, Judex at least is a possible inspiration for The Shadow, a pulp hero in America, which was then supposedly the inspiration for Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So all sorts of things happened with these silent movies in the beginning, and all these genres began with that too. I think it's really interesting. And to top that off, the whole serial craze started with Nick Carter,
mm-hmm.
with French adaptations of Nick Carter, American Detective, 1908.
Right. This is Judex especially is like in many critical works named as the first real superhero in film and entertainment. So you have this archetypal character that it's not like your Superman and the other kinds of heroes that are like, you know, godlike, mythic, they're aliens or apart from humanity, where this kind of superhero, which the line goes all the way to Batman through Zorro and the Phantom and everything, like you said, is just a regular dude who maybe has money, lots of money. He has like a secret hideaway and gadgets and he's maybe trained and self-taught and things like that. So a crusader, like a vigilante or type character. So this goes all the way back to the silent version of the film that we're talking about in the 63 remake, 68, sorry.
Yeah, he's got a cape too. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
Part of it. So this filmmaker, Georges Franju, am I saying
mm-hmm.
this right?
Yeah.
He wanted to remake Fantomas. He wanted to do a villain.
Mm-hmm.
So he was kind of upset about that. And the whole reason that Judex existed was because Les Vampires and Fantomas, it was like, well, you know, this is not the right thing right now. Like a critic in one of the film magazines called it an unhealthy genre.
Mm-hmm. Always, yeah.
Willard then made something with a sort of stiff, boring hero and an absolutely fascinating villain, Musidora,
mm-hmm.
the French actress who also did Les Vampires, is Irma Vep,
right,
in the black cat suit, doing her own stunts. So that is something that Franju in this remake of Judex also did. He hired his actress based on how evil her eyes looked,
right.
and he focused all his attention on her, Francine Berge. So it stars Channing Pollock as
Hmm.
Judex, a vigilante hero. He's a magician in real life, and that's something that's kind of different from the original
Right.
story. There's a wealthy man who is being blackmailed by Judex because he knows he's done all these terrible things to get his money. And then
Hmm.
his daughter, played by Edith Scobe, famously of Eyes Without a Face, who same
Right.
director, she's just this kind of delicate pawn in his game, like all does whatever he wants. And so Judex is like, I'm going to protect her. I'm going to take care of this asshole and stop the governess.
Yeah, she's pretending to be the governess to get to the rich man, and get all the money through him. But then things conspire to thwart her plot, so she just shifts to other plots to get to
So
the
that's our
family.
villain is her, but
Yeah.
also this wealthy man.
Hmm.
Had you seen Judex before we pointed our finger on this in the Psychotronic
No,
Encyclopedia?
no, neither, not this one and not the silent one. So I watched both because I always wanted to see it, but I never got around to it.
Yeah, same. I thought, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What did you think when you started watching it? Because at first it seemed like they were trying, there's a lot to the story because it's like a 12-part serial and he actually
Yeah.
gets a lot of the story in this hour and 37 minutes
Very, yeah, really,
movie.
I was surprised at how much because I watched the silent afterwards, and then I was
Yeah.
picking out all the similarities and the places where he merged things and characters, kind of condensed stuff to go from point to point. And it's kind of amazing how much, first of all, how much there is in the silent. It's about 5 hours and some, and how much he manages to fit into the movie. So,
Yeah.
and it still works. Like you still get most of the spirit of it, and you get everything across. So yeah, I loved it. I loved both of them actually, but I was so impressed by the Franju version is because of the imagery and like the plot and everything. This is what I mean when I said it's kind of like the other films that we've been talking about, where you have something from the past, a past style or a subject matter or something, and it's filtered through this modern sensibility, but it's filtered through in a way that's not just honoring it or like having reverence for it. It's actually filtered in a way to say something. So he's using a lot of the mood of the silence and a lot of elements like there's intertitles, there's
Yes,
uh,
I loved
uh,
that.
yeah, there's like heavy emphasis on imagery that would work great if it was also a silent movie, but then it's also kind of put through this 1960s, French cinema glamour. It's kind of effortlessly cool, and then there's little changes that we can talk about. There's changes, I think, in the things that he chooses to put forward
I
are
loved
more substance.
the callbacks to silent film style, the intertitles, but also just there's these long silent passages.
Yeah,
And there's some of
yeah.
the best scenes in the movie. And he just loved this actress, Edith Scobb,
Hmm.
who played, I hate to say Muse, I think they were co-conspirators.
Yeah,
She
that's better.
she's this delicate representation of so much of what he's doing. He really is a horror guy in a lot of
Hmm.
ways.
Hmm.
And she looked like a concerned bird,
Yeah,
you know?
which fits with
Like,
the bird imagery.
yeah. And so the fact that, and yeah, I guess we can get into that, how that turns into all sorts of things, but it's like I always think about how birds are descended from dinosaurs. Like they're delicate, but they're tough as hell.
Yeah,
And this actress always seems that way to me. She's also the star or the center of Eyes Without a Face. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was the director, the star. I just looked at her and I recognized her. And I
right.
realized that I recognized her even though she's wearing a mask that other movie the whole time.
Right.
Because
It's
it's the
her
way she,
bearing. Yeah.
right. Yes. And there's a silent part in there where it made me think a little bit about scenes in the dark and Eyes Without a Face, like
Hmm.
the way he makes the night feel evil, but also with a certain amount of angelic presence and
Right.
protection too.
And
It's so
the long
fascinating.
walks that she's taking through the mansion, especially as it's kind of empty, and she's the only one there, that really reminded me a lot.
I'd love to watch her. She would have been wonderful as a silent actress, so it's funny that she's in this remake.
Hmm.
But then, so we start with some establishing things about the relationships between people and what's happening with this rich man and his assistant, his daughter. But then we kind of jump right into a very unusual ball, celebrating the 20th anniversary of
Yeah.
his bank. Everybody's wearing a bird head, which
Yes.
I guess the director was inspired by pictures of these old etchings of people with bird
Hmm.
heads, like owls and such. And then that folded into Channing Pollock, the lead, who is a magician and
Hmm.
was famous for his bird act. So it made sense to have it all kind of go together.
It's really effective, isn't it?
It's a beautiful scene. You could
Yeah.
have it on its own and just be fascinated by it.
Yeah. when his character is introduced, it pans up to the head, which is one really good impression, and then it kind of pans over, and there's a supposedly dead bird that he picks up and brings back to life during his act. Really neat.
And I suppose super symbolic of what he does in general, kind of brings back something innocent. It's also just interesting, like in the silent, what happens is this rich man drinks a poison drink and falls. They think dead. And it's this whole twisted thing about how that isn't so. But here he holds up his drink and is about to drink it and passes out.
Yeah, that was different for sure.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if are they trying to suggest that it was more magic involved, or if we don't know everything and maybe they gave him something beforehand, or maybe, I don't know. I wasn't clear on that, but
They don't explain it.
it adds to the surreal kind of feel of everything. And
Yeah. I mean, it's like, oh, you think you know what's going to happen, but then you don't. And it kind of does end up that way if you haven't seen the silent serial. I think the best thing to do is to watch this remake and then watch the serial.
Yeah, I think so. It really filled in a lot of spots, because the serial, like I said, there's first of all, there's a lot more background on the motivation in the family, and there's a lot more history that goes into several characters telling why they have such a grudge against the evil banker. There's like almost expansion of, like, say, for the kids, for example, there's a lot more going on with the kids in the film, where here it's almost condensed into a few events with one extra child, and then the grandchild of the banker is not really as centered as it is in the serial. It's like improv. They get there, like they get the point and they get the spirit, so they kind of hop from the important events.
Yeah, it's just the way he packs so much information in and makes it seem like he's not packing it in. Like, that's just such an unusual talent. Made me think a little bit of Ryan Coogler in Sinners, just with all these ideas.
Because there's so much in there,
When you think about what all happened, it's like, how did we get all this together? Like,
it's like magic.
It all makes
it's
sense. Yeah, and again, it's magic involved, right? Yeah, but I just love how he clearly loathes his title character. Just does not care about it.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and he is boring and self-important, and he's not a good guy either. He's kidnapping people. Hello.
He has like a change of heart here and there, but I think, I can't remember if it's in the serial, in the silent version. I think it was it might not be in the Franju version, but he actually says that he decides that he's just a vigilante and he can't go as far as being an executioner.
Yeah, it's like, oh, so moral of you. Like, you get to decide. I don't know. So this, you're set up to love Francine Berger is Diana Monti. She's evil and selfish, but she's honest, damn it.
Yeah.
She doesn't hide it at all. Like, yeah, she had a secret identity as a governess, yes, but for the most part, she doesn't care. She's just out there doing her evil will with those amazing eyes.
Yes, yeah.
And that dark black hair, just, oh man.
And the male hero here is now whether that's interesting to think of it, if it was Franju's choices on how to adapt it, or if it was because Pollock was not really a great actor. So is it, it may be a combination of those things. Yeah. Where he comes off as really kind of dull, and not only dull, but also flawed, and like so flawed that he's almost inept in a lot of things. In a lot of his situations, he gets beaten or hit on the head or tied up to something, and it's the women who do all the action and save him.
Captured. Yeah. Like, he almost gets killed.
Yeah.
He's a loser, kind of. He's lucky, and he does have these angels and these women.
There's a lot of luck and happenstance in this, but it works because you're just kind of swept along with this exciting plot that, when somebody is kind of, oh, magically we need an acrobat, and oh, look, there's an acrobat. What a coincidence. And you're like, okay, I'll go with it.
Yeah. No, there's not an acrobat in the original, is there?
No, she's a swimmer actually in the original. So she doesn't get involved really in the same way. Like it works as a relationship for the detective. But this is
that's
like
a whole
perfect.
other thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is like perfect. You need an acrobat to climb the side of a building, which is another amazing image. The way that everyone's climbing the side of that building.
Yeah. I mean, we're just throwing all this stuff out here, but it's like it's that. That's what this movie is. It doesn't. You're never confused by the end of it. It all comes together very easily. But it is all this stuff too. And the detective character, actually. So this detective, he kind of reminds me of the manservant hired in Rules of the Game. He's just whimsy embodied and just going through life, somehow getting protected at every turn, sort of like the Edith Scub, you know, he
Yeah.
just always finds somebody to help him, always gets his way out of it. Like this
Yeah.
key scene where his friend who is an acrobat just happens to show up, stuff like that. So I love how he is reading Phantomus
Right.
in his office. And, and then the little boy comes to give him some information and push the plot along. And there's a nun on the cover of it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then the villain, Diana, dresses undercover as a nun to kidnap somebody at some point. And it's like the director is just saying very loudly, I wish I was doing that. So
Right.
I'm just going to kind of make it happen somehow.
I know.
I'm going to
Let's
have her.
shoehorn that in and it'll fit. And it
Yeah.
fits because the detective is that's why he gets along so well with the kid in the serial with both kids. Because they're all have this sense of the detective is childlike, and you have to have this childlike sense of wonder and possibility and fascination with this world because they're all living in this pulp world that is kind of things happen illogically, and it's kind of fantastic and unbelievable, but that's why they kind of solve the mystery so well, and because they're just going with it. I recently rewatched The Window, the noir with Ruth Roman and
With the little boy that sees
and
something terrible and
yeah,
nobody believes him.
nobody believes him, and that's usually in most movies. That's the plot, especially in horror movies. Like nobody believes the kid. Where here, it's like the kids are, especially, and again, it's more so in the serial because it's all more fleshed out. But where it's the licorice kid, it's like, and he's also he's telling the grandchild the story of Alice in Wonderland too, which
The
is
detective
neat.
is telling
Yeah,
her that in the very beginning
yeah,
when he first meets her, because her name is
yeah.
Alice, and he's like, "Well, I know of an Alice." Yeah,
That's right. So it's like they're united in this kind of understanding of this fantastic, crazy world, this, of pulp and superheroes and things. And it
yeah.
fits.
He has he's able to get the information because he's able to engage with his whimsy, basically. So
Exactly. Yeah.
so him telling all these stories to a little girl while she's in bed and all of that, it seems very random, but it isn't
No.
because it tells him like his doing that and reading detective novels is actually what makes his brain work the right way and makes it, and his love of children also helps him to solve things because he's
Yeah.
listening to this boy, like he's sending the servant away, like get out,
Yeah.
sending the
Right.
servant away in a huff. I need to listen to this boy,
Yeah.
you
You don't
know.
see that often in movies
No.
like this. It's like, oh, the kid's making stuff up, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like women and
Yep.
children, right?
Yeah.
Like the history of movies is them not being believed, and then you have a movie. But here you have a movie because people are believed.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
interesting. And
it is
family
interesting.
too. It's also a sign, it's a function of this in this story, family, first of all, like you can look at it in two ways. It's a lot of it is the sins of the father in this movie because it keeps, or in this story, even if you look at the whole story along with the silent, it's about criminal behavior, or even in Franju's case, I think he's also layering in France's past, because he goes back to, at the beginning of the movie, he mentions 1914, which is not when the original Judex was made. It was in 1916. So he's going back to World War I, while also making it at a time when, the French colonial, there's a really good little short on Criterion Channel that goes into this, where they say that, in around the time that the remake comes out, the French colonial experiment is failing in Algeria. And so you can also layer these things in with the sins of the father. And in Judex, the Favreau, the banker, was involved in the Panama scandal, which was, fleecing hundreds of thousands of people
Right.
of tons of money, where there was suicide and murder. And so now the daughter has to pay unless she renounces her inheritance, and then you have revenge from people who their son comes back for revenge because they lost everything because of the scandal. So there's a lot of family stuff. And then the other thing that's happening with family too is that family ties and bonds will switch, like some of the villains, the one henchman, he switches his allegiance like that when he finds his long lost father. So family
Yeah.
and kids are really powerful.
Like it's there's no question that this is what's
Mhm.
happening. Well, it's interesting you're talking about reality too, because he started out with this. The Franju started out with Blood of the Beasts in 1949, this slaughterhouse documentary that I've only been able to watch a little bit of because it is brutal.
Mhm.
The killings that it shows. He really has a love for the real. So that's why this fanciful movie works so well, is because he grounds it so brilliantly. Like there's like, you're talking about the Criterion channel. There's so many great extras
Mhm.
about the movie interviews with like the son of the original director who wrote, the script for this or
Right.
helped. And then like Edith Scobe is interviewed in connection with Eyes Without a Face, but it's interesting to see her point of view. And then Francine Berger, how much she loved Edith Scobe and how
Right.
fascinated they all were with each other. All of that is great. But there's also an interview with Franju and on a horror show. Absolutely
Okay.
wonderful interview. It's this guy wearing kind of a mad scientist outfit and around all these test tubes and gurgling things, just ridiculous. And then Franju is there, handsome, gray hair, speaking seriously about things. And he talks about like the fantastic is created while the bizarre is seen.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting.
it's like he's like, I love images that make me dream, but I don't like someone dreaming for me.
Mm-hmm.
So you talking about him using reality in the mix and also his settings being,
Mm-hmm.
a mill, the streets of the city. Like
Yeah.
that's what makes it more exciting and
Yeah.
not this fanciful thing. Like even this whimsical detective is grounded in his relationships and,
Yeah. Yeah.
what he sees out on the streets. And that's what makes it work so well, I think.
Yeah, and the juxtaposition of those things, like those are all like things that are part of the workings of a nation, the mill and the small town and everything. And even when he goes to some ruin, like he has a secret hideaway in a cavern somewhere that's a ruin of some old structure, right? And even that is tied to history, but he also in that he has this kind of fabulous futuristic technology, like the mirror, the
Mhm.
video surveillance mirror that moves around and follows the inmate, the banker while he's in the dungeon in the cell,
And that
or
was in the
the
serial, The Silent, the mirror
yeah,
was.
that's
That's just,
amazing.
I was
The
like,
mirror
what?
and the writing, like the projected writing and everything, with that, like the ceiling hatch opens and the writing is projected, like all that stuff was in the original. So
So
that
cool.
there you have that juxtaposition, and then Franju is also kind of doing the same thing when he's kind of with his reverence for all these things from the silent, but he's also giving it a modern edge, which is like you said, he's playing with it. So it's not just nostalgic, he's playing with all this primal older this stuff, but he's also opening this space where the silliness of the pulp and everything, and kind of the illogical, the too muchness of the plot of everything happening. He's also kind of making it, modern and sexy and political, which is neat.
That's the perfect point about the nostalgia, about how he's not leaning into that, about
Yeah,
how he updates it. So he's drawing all of these plot points, but he makes it something new, and he is the creator of it, and he has control of it. You're so right. That's really what makes it exciting,
yeah,
and I think why I see this as more of a tribute than a remake. He's like, well, here's all the shit that I loved about it,
yeah,
you know.
exactly. Yeah,
Put it all out here, but he does it with purpose. Like he's not just pulling out, it's like just like, oh, you remember that one time that was
yeah,
awesome. Oh,
that was great.
old Christopher. You know that? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Somebody who
yeah,
has the vision to make it their own thing while paying tribute. It's just crazy to me.
yeah,
I have such respect for this kind of a mind, and I can see this being the same person who created Eyes Without a Face just a few years earlier. Like he
yeah,
knows how to mold something and make it so you never forget it, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So one of the actresses in the film, you had some sort of no, what was it? A connection or
Oh,
something?
well, when we picked it, we put our finger on this movie, and I was looking at it and said, "Oh, I always wanted to see Judex." And I was looking at the cast, and I recognized that one of them, the one who plays Daisy, I think her name is Daisy, right? The acrobat, Silva Koshchina, who is from former Yugoslavia, which is now Croatia, Zagreb. And she was interesting because she was born there, but she very quickly young, went to Italy and became kind of an Italian, really prolific work. She was an Italian star that you could compare more to the male stars at the time, I think, because she was making a lot of trying to think of what was the most famous one. She came to do a couple movies in the States, but never really caught on as much as in Italy. But she's really interesting. And like you said, those two women here, they have that battle at the end, like the governess, the character Francine Berger is dressed in black in the cat suit, and Daisy's dressed in white, and it's like, oh,
Yeah,
we perfect timing for an acrobat to show up. She scales the side of the building, climbs up the rooftop, and the two women are fighting it out on the rooftops out there. So
yeah.
and they're both really really good like they have real good presence, like you said. They're really fascinating
The
characters.
most obvious symbolism, but who
Yeah,
cares? It's
yeah,
gorgeous and fantastic and striking and still so exciting to watch.
yeah,
I see so many action movies where you just can't see what's going on. You're not connected to it.
yeah,
In this one, you just feel the
yeah.
blows, everything, that
Everything
happens.
is earned, as they say, right? Everything is
Yeah.
earned. Every moment has a nice setup, and it kind of all clicks into place when you're watching it.
Yeah. This is a very rich film and just connected to so many things. Like, we both mentioned the Eyes Wide Shut. You thought of it immediately, seeing
Yeah,
the scene with the masked ball. Yeah.
yeah. The powerful, the rich and powerful, having a fun time with masks and everything. That was great. That I mean, that you could also say that if Judex is an influence on Batman, which he is, I mean, you can draw the line right through there. There's a whole Batman. There's a whole story about the Court of Owls that I don't know. I haven't looked into it. Maybe it was influenced by this kind of
Yeah, I
thing.
don't know, but I'm going to find out.
And then last year I was discovering the genre land movies. I watched a whole bunch of them. Fascination, The Living Dead Girl. And this has kind of the same. The Franju Judex has a kind of that same dreamy, image first. You can see a lot of influence, I think, in those movies because they're kind of dreamy and surreal and image. It's like an image first movie,
Yeah.
uh, above everything, where almost the style becomes the substance of those
Yeah, you
films.
really can't care about the plot of those movies. You
Yeah,
just have to
it
just
just kind of carries you
watch.
along. So that, you can see a lot of things that are influenced from this, from
Yeah.
Judex in general.
Oh, I agree. And if anything, just centering women,
Yeah,
just being fascinated with women and actually liking them,
yeah,
which that shouldn't be unusual, but it kind of is when it comes to movies. And it's amazing when a director is like, nah, she's
hmm,
cool.
yeah,
And different kinds of women, you know?
yeah, yeah. There's the whole spectrum from
Yeah.
good to bad and innocent and silly and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Scope character is interesting because she's supposed to be so passive. All these things just happen to her, but you also just keep wondering, like,
Hmm.
does she want she takes control. She
Yeah,
realizes her
yeah,
life is dirty money and she rejects her inheritance and goes off and does her own thing.
yeah,
She takes as much control as she's able after living a life where she has none.
right.
But it's interesting how Judex kind of assumes that she wants to have anything to do with them and
Yeah,
kind of seems like they're going to end up together. But you can also see kind of the way she reacts to him when she becomes aware of him
hmm,
kind of makes me think of Beauty and the Beast a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
How the bee how the Belle specifically the Cocteau one in 1946 how
hmm,
she's doesn't want to marry him but kind of comes to love him and there's a certain attraction there and then when the prince reveals himself she's like oh okay that's fine
yeah,
and you're just like she doesn't seem super excited about that like is that down the road going to be a problem like
yeah.
like she has other ideas about things and she might actually do something about those ideas.
I think the difference that is I think that might be the main big difference between this one and the serial is in the serial they stretch that out quite a bit where she actually says that she could never love Judex because of she associates him with the tragedy that's befallen the family. And so he has to work his way into her affections more.
Interesting.
So and also Favreau is alive at the end of the silent one and he remember like in this one he said I just want to go back to living and be anonymous and just live a simple life. He
Yeah.
actually does that in the silent. Actually, that actually happens.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, so that's
Just
interesting. That
pretend it never happened. Yeah,
yeah,
dude.
yeah.
That's not right. That's not right. So I do like that. I mean, just one more thing about the silent that I think is really interesting is that the acting is so modern in it.
It is.
And
Yeah,
and if you watch a decent print of it, you really kind of forget its period sometimes.
definitely. Yeah,
That makes
it's
sense. Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting. I love both of these. I actually like the silent maybe a touch more because
Yeah.
I just got so involved in it and as like a serialized obviously stating the obvious. It just really feels like you're reading a series of pulp, novels or like watching a comic series or something.
Well, I loved this pick so much. I
Me
love a
too.
random pick. I mean, we have all sorts of ideas about what we want to talk about here, but the sense of discovery when you've been watching thousands and thousands of films over the years,
Hmm.
it's just great. I love that there's always something new.
Yeah.
how encouraging in a way, you know?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you never get bored with movies if you love them because there's always something new to explore and find.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good fun, and I can't wait for the next one.
Thanks for listening. You can find us and more of our links at psychotronicsisters.wordpress.com.
Come into my den, said the spider.